to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.net. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. As always, you know, I am truly honored that you're joining us today. Now, as you listen to the show, of course, I hope you feel my passion that change, whatever you're going through, change related, I get it. It gives us that knot in that stomach sometimes, especially if the change is thrust upon us. So to help you on your journey of change and hopefully navigating with a little bit more ease and grace, I have my free communication style assessment. The link will be in the show notes. I highly recommend you check it out. You'll get 2 reports. One, spotlighting your superpowers, how people perceive you, those natural kind of tendencies you have. We want to lean into them. The flip side, we have our shadow side or our blind spots, and you get a report reflecting that as well, which probably might be even a little bit more impactful. We need to know what we don't see in order to address it and change. And that's where I hope I can help you with wherever you're navigating change in your life. Additionally, if you love the show, which I hope you do, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode and share with your peeps, right? Sharing is caring. And if you rate and review, I am truly honored by that. You know, analytics are real out there when we talk about business. So if you'd love to rate and review, I'd truly be honored to have you do that as well. Now, my motivational quote today is by Amit Ray. And Amit says, "Your mind is a flexible mirror. Adjust it to see a better world." So I'm fascinated with the number of people who seem to work from this kind of reaction versus a more proactive perspective, especially when it comes to business and career. Now, I also see how some leaders are feeling just plain old stuck with all the shifts we've seen over the past 2+ years. Now, my personal style, you guys know me a little bit, is to move fast, move forward, right? Approach my business from this very proactive vantage point. My challenge is sometimes the opposite, that I move way too fast. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that slowing down to kind of be in the present and see what's actually going on and reacting to that situation as unfolds is important as well. So how do we find the balance of that movement forward with the reality of the business today, or the reality of our businesses today, versus sitting back and reacting to the situation as it unfolds? Listen, I know this is not an easy topic. So how do we become those better leaders by making these little shifts, perhaps, in our perspective and hopefully our approach, so that we could create that true balancing act? Of course, today I have my amazing friends of many, many years, who's an expert on this topic and in the leadership world. Cheryl Benini Ellis is my guest, and Cheryl's the author of Becoming Deliberate, Changing the Game of Leadership from the Inside Out. Now, as a former senior executive turned entrepreneur, she's helped countless leaders achieving breakthrough success. She's a certified high-performance leadership coach, specializing in helping growth-minded business owners and executives build fully engaged, cohesive, and of course, high-performing teams. Cheryl is the founding member of John Maxwell's team of coaches, trainers, and speakers, and she's certified facilitator for the 5 behaviors of cohesive teams, everything DISC. Boy, I had watch how I say that. Productive conflict and PXT Select. She's a senior faculty member at the Leadership Development Institute at Eckerd College, a network associate of the Center for Creative Leadership. Oh my goodness, she has so much credentials. She's absolutely amazing. Please help me welcome Cheryl to the show. So Cheryl, thanks for being on.
Oh, Connie, it's always a pleasure. You know, we always have such a good time when we chat, and I was so looking forward to this discussion because, you know, I loved your intro, and just some of the things that people are struggling with now are really a little bit mind-boggling, right?
Yeah. No, so it's been quite a while since we've actually done a show. You and I were doing like quarterly there for a while, and then I think COVID hit and everything just kind of went topsy-turvy. So it's been a while, but what are you noticing about the business leaders that you're working with? You know, this, and I'm going to do in quotes, guys who are watching on YouTube, right? Quote, you know, post-COVID, you know, what do you see going on out there?
Yeah, it's really interesting. The thing that I'm noticing, Connie, is people are really stressed out. They're really tired and they're really overwhelmed. Yeah. And, you know, when that happens, we have this human tendency to react in usually one of 3 ways. We either fight, flight. It's fight, flight, or freeze, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed that people are getting angrier quicker. There's all this like road rage. People are acting out more than you would typically expect.
Yes.
A lot of in family fighting. People don't want to be with their families over holidays because of differences of opinion. So there's kind of fight thing going on. Then there's the flight thing going on where people are just checking out. I mean, they're just backing off. They're not participating in the things that they typically would in the past. And then finally, there's the people that are just frozen. They just don't know what to do, so they just stay stuck. And I mean, maybe that's the worst of all, but I don't know. And I've seen all of those, and people flip from one to the other, back and forth. I know myself, I get overwhelmed at times, and I think I don't even know what to do next. So there's just a lot. I just see a lot. And so the thing besides that I see is that as business leaders, when we have high standards for ourselves, we tend to beat ourselves up when we're in those frames of mind. And actually that's not helpful, beating ourselves up. So what I would love to see is people giving each other a little bit more grace right now, because I think we need more of that. We need more humanity. We need some more understanding and less judgment.
Yeah,
so that's
TLC.
what I'm seeing a lot of. I'm sure you see something similar in your work.
It is, and it's sad. It's sad because listen, COVID was radical. It was huge and radical. I mean, the whole world stopped, right? That's unprecedented. So I get it. I get where and I know I'm feeling stuck in certain things, and I'll just share a really odd story with you. So a couple of weeks ago, I have not taken a day off, right? I'm in overwhelm like other people. Same thing. You just said there are moments of where you feel like you can't breathe, right? And so a few weeks ago, I said to my husband, I just want a day off. Is that too much to ask? A day off. Well, don't you know, that was earlier in the week. By Friday, I had a stomach virus. So what did I have to do? I couldn't work. I had to cancel my day. And literally, I just wouldn't leave the house because I was afraid of, vomiting. Fast forward last week, again, I said to him, geez, I just feel like I can't catch up. I just want a day off that I don't have to do anything. And I got a cold and I was in bed last weekend. So this week I said to him, I'm never saying that again. I manifested it into my life, right? I know you believe in the universal law and divine intervention and all of that. I manifested exactly what I wanted, except it wasn't a fun weekend, right? I was in bed sick, coughing, like hacking like an old smoker. So I think this is happening across the board. I know I see it with myself. So and another question, I know we spoke earlier in the week, and that fight, flight, and freeze, there were percentages attached to that, weren't there?
I don't know what they are, because I think it's pretty fluid for people. I think in any given situation, you would have a reaction like that when you're feeling overwhelmed. So I haven't seen percentages, but it's an interesting thought. But here's what I will say about your experience. I think the key here is not to wait till you get to that stage where you're forced to take some time off, or you're forced to take a rest. Yeah. You need to build it into your schedule. I don't know about you, but I've been asked to do a lot of work more recently on the whole subject of energy management and resilience.
Yes.
And these are more and more important topics for people. And it's a little, I don't know, it's a little disturbing that as leaders, we just don't take care of ourselves. We don't give ourselves a break. I mean, I teach, as you know, in the Leadership Development Institute. And so I'm working with a group of maybe 20 to 30 leaders at a time. And we check in on their energy management and their self-care on day one. And it's deplorable. I mean, the results are deplorable. They just don't make it a priority. And I think until something happens. So, I've just been on my soapbox about this, getting people to really take self-care seriously, recognize that it's not selfish, really build some resiliency into your daily habits and energy building things. So, and I've been asked to talk about it a lot too, because I think it's with people being overwhelmed, it's really a lot on people's minds. How can I take better care of myself?
Yeah, it's funny. My first module in my 9-week program is mindset. We talk about mindset and how important that is because it can stop you, it can propel you, but where you're coming from, it really matters. And here's the funniest thing, right after being sick, coming back, guess what? The world didn't stop. My business didn't collapse. Everything still got done as it's going to, but it's in those moments of angst where I think we lose the forest from the trees, right? It becomes very personal and it's very hard to rise above that at times. And listen, I know we're preaching to the choir. The listeners, they're probably shaking their heads as they're driving or vacuuming or jogging, whatever it is that they're listening to us saying, yeah, okay, I don't feel so alone that, kind of everybody is in this realm of energy sucking. Maybe that's the way to put it, right?
Yeah. There's a lot.
Yeah.
And, I think that, one of the things that happens is we become focused on, how do I get out of this situation,
Yes.
and it's sometimes not easy to do, but I think it's important. And, I often think that, taking an action, no matter how small, can make a big difference. Because just like you said, it all starts with mindset. Mindset is, to me, like the number one thing you have to start working on. Like, where's my head?
Always.
What am I thinking? What are my thoughts? Because my thoughts lead to my behaviors and my actions. And, if I don't have my head on straight, it's really hard to figure out what my next action should be. And so taking an action, no matter how small, I say just a baby step, gives you some movement, and movement creates more momentum. And then you're on your way to working yourself out of it. But sometimes when you're stuck, it's really hard to even figure that out. But I always say, just one little step. What's one little step that you can take to move in the direction of, where you want to be or what your goal is? And because the overwhelm comes from thinking about, oh my God, I have so much to do, and it's going to take me so long, and it's going to be so hard, and I'm not even really sure how to do it. Just take one little baby step, and it can make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's funny. My business coach and I talk about this all the time, and he says, how do you avoid overwhelm? He said, your to-do list, we all have a to-do list, and there's so much on it. And there's so many things as business owners that we want to do. We want to try. I'd love that. I'd love to do that. I'd love to learn that. There's this whirlwind of things that we'd like to do. And he says, but you have to still prioritize. So some of those to-do lists and saying, oh, that would be nice to learn that. Maybe it's just not in the cards right now. So that prioritization becomes super important. With that clarity of what the prioritization should be is kind of important. What do you see, or why is it that some people just seem to rise above the challenges and are able to stay just super laser focused and productive, while others just look and go, what do they do? Like, why do I have cement feet right now?
Yeah. Well, like it's sort of what we've been talking about, it's really a matter of mindset and habits. To me, it's that. And I think that, we're all creatures of habit. So one of the things I say is with your habits, are you deliberate about them? Are you intentional and thoughtful about them? Or are they just things that you do without thinking?
Yes.
And I mean, that is definition of a habit, of course, but you can create some habits that are more, that are more beneficial to your overall thinking and to your overall success. So we get in these habits of thought, or we just get in these habits of doing things without questioning them. And I think you have to take a step back once in a while and say, what is it that I really want to create here? And how do I go about doing that? I think the people that are routinely and consistently high performing and successful are very aware of their mindset. They have a lot of clarity. They have very deliberate habits that they create and they follow, and they're everything from habits of. There could even be habits of mindset. So, for example, having that growth mindset, that sense of I want to grow, I want to learn, and that's one of the things that is really important to me. So I'm going to make sure that that's built into the things that I'm doing.
Yes.
Or even things like I say. You could have a habit of courage. When you're faced with some type of a fear, you have a way of just moving forward anyway, in spite of the fear, because we all know, we all have fears. We all know that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to overcome the fear in order to move forward. So what's the habit I can put in place whenever I'm faced with something that I don't want to do because I'm afraid? That could be, speaking up, speaking out. It could be, just getting outside of your comfort zone in some way, again, some little insignificant way that could just start you in a process. So to me, it's a question of mindset and habits. And the people that are most successful are just most deliberate about, choosing those habits and choosing those mindsets.
Yeah, as you were describing that, and I do love how you bring courage into, because I've been through your program, which is brilliant. And, courage is a piece of it. And I think we don't think about courage. What? Like, I'm not courageous. But choosing growth, choosing to make a change, choosing whatever that next step is kind of that courage that we have. And it's funny, and I think the story, but when COVID hit, right, you and I, we did a lot of live stuff. Everything stopped. My husband lost his job. So we had zero income coming in. And I remember saying to my husband, you got to give me one day where literally I think I threw up all day, because I thought, what? We had 2 kids in college. Like, what? How? We're going to lose the house. We're going to go bankrupt. Right? That's that immediate fear set in. And I said to my husband, I just need 24 hours. I want to wallow in my sorrow. I want to feel sorry for myself. Meanwhile, everybody else was feeling sorry for themselves. Fear was real because I had elderly parents. He had elderly parents. So there was a lot of fear from different places, but I knew, don't get stuck in it. And it's a mental thing for me. I give myself, depending on the severity of whatever the situation is, this was pretty severe. So I gave myself 24 hours. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's 10 hours, whatever it is, again, depending on the complexity of the situation. Then I come back and say, what can you control? And it goes back to what you were saying before, Cheryl. What is that one little step I know I can make that, not going to cost money or whatever it was, when COVID hit, but it was, what's that one thing I can do? And for me, it was learning the technology. And I had a feeling that even if COVID ended the next day, right, which we had a feeling it wasn't. So I said, even if this lasts 2 weeks, I have a deficit because I don't have anything digitized. I don't have a platform. I had my website, but that was about it. So what do you need to do immediately? Learn the technology. And it was a good choice, right? Because now 2 years later, I have 2 divisions. I'm digital, all these things. But that first baby step, it's hard. It's really hard when you're in that just debilitating element of fear. So I believe you have to give yourself a chance to feel the crap or whatever's going on, and then push it aside for a moment because you felt it, you honored yourself, and then say, hey, and I love that. What is that one baby step that I can take that'll at least give me motion forward instead of that feeling stuck?
So, you asked me too what I was noticing, and here's one of the things that I've really noticed. To your point and to the point of your story, I think that when we were first faced with this pandemic, our natural instinct was to protect ourselves and to protect our loved ones. So we all hunkered down, and we stayed home, and we did all those things. And some of us got really quickly into what do I need to do now? How do I need to change? What do I need to learn? And so we went into that next phase of trying to figure out how we were going to adapt. And so you and I are adapters. I mean, we're more about going with the flow and figuring out how do we get out of this mess.
Yeah.
But a lot of people couldn't get past that initial phase of trying to be safe. And I still know people today, and I'm sure you do too, and I run into them all the time, that are really risk averse. They still don't want to take any chances. They still don't want to essentially leave home. And every once in a while, when there's more kind of bad news about the next wave or whatever, they go, yeah, I'm not going to go anywhere now again. And so there's a lot of people still stuck in that mindset of, got to be safe, can't take any chances, can't take any risks. And meanwhile, there's other people who really want to kind of turn the corner and figure out, okay, what do I have to do? And it's hard to figure that out. And so one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is how do I help this group of people?
Mhm.
So, and this is part of the reason why I've resurrected the program that you took part in. I'm going to be, I'm going to be introducing that in a bigger way over the next several months, because I think there's so much in there that can really help people.
Agree.
If they're stuck, it can help them get unstuck. If they're more in that proactive phase, it will help them gain some clarity around, what is it that who am I right now? What is it that I want to do? What's most important to me, and create that game plan forward. So it is one of the ways that I feel like I can help the most. So I've been starting to kind of ramp up around doing some education about what is it that people that are successful do differently than everyone else. Those people that consistently perform at a high level. How do they get there? So I've put a little educational piece together for that, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But I just think that you've got to figure out where you are. And for those of us, like I put you and me in the same place, like we're moving at the speed of light. We've got to reach out and help the people that are really struggling more, and stand beside them and help them, move through the morass, because we've kind of already done it in more of a high speed. But there's a lot we can do to help people through it, and just give them support, give them courage, challenge them, help them think a little differently, take some actions, even baby steps. And so that's where my head is these days, is like, okay, I know that I can do this and come out the other end. Let me see how I can help other people do the same thing.
Yeah. And I was in that cohort. It was pre-COVID, but this is what's fascinating. I still use the stuff I learned with you, Cheryl, but I think the thing that I got, again, pre-COVID, was clarity of my business at that point, because it's very, as business owners, we can isolate ourselves and almost create our own little silo, which is really dangerous. And so being part of that group of people, we were able to share and support each other through love and through respect and ideas. And I chimed in with my sales stuff with the folks that were business development officers that were in the cohort. But for me, it was hearing and learning, like courage. I had never thought of that. And just redefining the way I looked at myself and my business created clarity that I wouldn't have had, because someone else, it was a blind spot, right? I started with the blind spot with my intro, with my communication style assessment. You were able to shine lights for us on things that we didn't even know were blind spots, right? That's why they're blind spots. So I think that's the biggest piece of the puzzle for people who are feeling stuck. I bet they were like me back then, right? When I worked with you, I don't know how to get unstuck, because they have the blind spots that they're not seeing with clarity. So I do think it's important, and whether it's Cheryl or Connie or whoever, I do think you need some outside resource or perspective, or again, flashlight almost, to shine on those blind spots. Because when you're stuck and you really don't know what to do, you have two options, right? Stay stuck, or figure out a way to move forward. And sometimes if you don't have the resources available to you, it's hard to move forward. I have great people in my life who I can reach out to and say, hey, here's the sitch. I don't know what the hell to do next. And people are very, loving and caring, and we work together, right, to figure all of that out. Everybody doesn't have that. And I know even in careers, people are afraid to go to their bosses and ask, I'm stuck, because they think they're going to look down upon. So this is very deep. This conversation is very deep and very important.
And I think, I think there's never been a better time to make an investment in yourself, whether
Agreed.
it's, working with somebody that can provide, some clarity around the path forward, or whether it's working with somebody that can help hold you accountable, or whether it's working someone who can teach you things that you don't know that you need to know. I just think now is not the time to try and do it on your own. I just, more so than ever. Like, I think a lot of what I've taught people over the years, when I end up any type of a seminar or webinar or workshop, you like to give people tools that they can take and put into place.
Absolutely.
The next day. And I always try to do that. But I also think that you also give people an option of, if you don't feel you can do it alone, here's another option to work with me or work with someone else or get an accountability partner or whatever it takes. But especially now, I think it's more important than ever not to try to go it alone, because we're still in this kind of world of uncertainty and chaos and mass disruption. And, there's not a lot of clarity. So seeking clarity is a great habit that high performers have. And it's helpful to have somebody alongside you when you're doing that, somebody to bounce the ideas off of, just like you said, in your group, in your cohort. You had people that had very different backgrounds and experiences than you. And sometimes their insights are even more valuable than the people who know your industry or know the kind of work you do, because they just say, well, why do you do it that way? And you stop and think, why do I do it that way? So, I just think getting some help and having some sense of community and support is more critical than ever.
Yeah, agree. And, if you had to give just 2 tips, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot here, but people listening, because I love what you just said. And I end every seminar too, or speaking event, whatever it is, whether it's live or virtual or Zoom, not for, Zoom virtual. I make sure that I give them a tool or a strategy or a tip that they can implement immediately, because action is where we create that reaction. And that's what magic really starts happening.
Right.
But okay, Connie and Cheryl, I understand, get unstuck. Okay, make a baby step forward. Okay, that all makes sense. Can you give 1 or 2 tips that are really tangible that at the end of listening to the show, people can implement?
Sure. Well, I think the first one might surprise you. I'm not sure. One of the things I think is that we need to give ourselves some grace.
Yeah.
And I think while we're giving ourselves some grace, we should give other people some grace. And why I say that is we've all been through some real challenges, varying degrees for sure, and coming out of it in varying degrees for sure. But the last few years has changed us in ways that we don't always stop and recognize, but we've all been changed by our experiences. So, and it's not been easy. So I just say, give yourself some grace, give other people some grace. I think that's probably my number one. And then my second is just, there's never been a better time than figuring out how to invest in yourself and being deliberate about that. Like, what am I going to do if I want to meet the next 12 months head on? What do I have to do that effectively? And just start moving in the direction of investing some time and help for yourself that is going to see you through to the other side, whatever that is. So those are the 2 things. And so one place that people can start is, I know you're going to put this in the notes, is
yes, please.
Access to this webinar that I've created about the 6 secrets of the world's most successful people, where you can learn about the science of high performance. Like, why is it that most people fail? And, what's the path forward for success? And it's not always what you think. So I encourage people, that's a free webinar. It's been recorded. I've set it up so that you can watch it pretty much any time. I think you might have to wait 15 minutes, no more than 15 minutes to watch it. And hopefully all the technology is working, because it's all brand new technology for me. And if it isn't, I just invite people to reach out to me and I'll help you figure it out. But that's something that, your audience can just, take advantage of today if they want to.
And this is the thing too, Cheryl, I'm blessed that the guests that come on my show always have some type of free resource that they offer at the end based on the conversation. And then so people who are inspired by the conversation, right, could get a little bit more meat and a little bit more detail than just in a 35-minute show. So thank you for that. I truly am always honored when my guests share their zone of genius through some type of free training or resource or PDF or whatever it is. So thank you so much for the 6 secrets of the world's most successful people free webinar. I will put that in the link I'll put in the show notes for you guys. Also, if you do have a question for Cheryl, email her at cheryl@ellisbusinessenterprises.com, or you can get it through her website, which is CherylBaniniEllis.com. I promise I will put all of that in the show notes as well. And the other thing I just wanted to share, Christmas is coming. It's right. So I can't believe the end of 20 for my future listeners. It's the end of 2022. We're in November recording this show. But also I highly recommend Cheryl's book, which is also, bestseller, but it's Becoming Deliberate, Changing the Game of Leadership from the Inside Out. And that's available through the website, CherylBaniniEllis.com. All you have to do is pay the shipping and handling. I highly recommend getting this book because it really helps you discern what is that deliberate next thing for me, my career, my business, whatever it might be. And everybody's a little different. So you're gonna, as you read the book, multiple things, trust me, multiple things will resonate with you. But again, just pay the shipping and handling, go to the website, CherylBaniniEllis.com. And thank you for sharing that as well. Cheryl, I know you're doing that for the show, just paying the shipping and handling. So I so appreciate that as well. I feel like we gave away 2 good gifts today.
Well, it's my pleasure. I just try to do whatever I can. And, Connie, I think you have a great following, great listeners. And so I'm happy to help them. I just think that I'm always interested too, when people read the book, they all get something different out of it. So I'm always interested in hearing back. So tell your listeners, and I'll tell your listeners, just feel free to reach out to me, because I always love to hear like what little gem worked for you and how did it work for you? Because that always is great to hear.
It really is. And it's so funny the takeaways people have. So when I published my book, right, my personal book, not the anthologies that I've been part of. And so people would email me and say, I didn't know that about you. And, I didn't know that's how you started your career. Or I would get the email saying, oh my God, it was like you were talking to me, or you get the people, it was, oh, Connie, it just sounded so much like you. And I'm like, well, I hope so. I wrote the book, right? It should sound like me.
Yeah.
But people's perspective and the response, it's really very heartwarming too, that people found some value, right, in something that we're putting out there to help, hopefully always from a helpful perspective. And then when people come back with these different, you're like, really? Like, wasn't what you expected to hear, right? Have you had that experience?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I've had some really interesting insights that people have shared with me, that I just not expected at all. So
it's the coolest. It's just the coolest. Yeah. Thank you, Cheryl. As always, I just love hanging out with you. And I know my listeners always find value in our shows. I usually get comments when you and I record that, oh, I took this away, or, oh, I implemented that, or, oh, I bought the book, whatever it might be. So I am honored always to have you on my show, but in my life as a whole. I'm lucky I get to hang out with her.
I really appreciate the opportunity, and let's not wait so long for next time, because I always enjoy our chats so much. And
absolutely.
And it helps me in so many ways.
And I just want to share, Cheryl, we've known each other for years. Cheryl lives in Florida. I'm in Jersey. I think I'm coming to Florida in February with my husband on business. So I might have to pop in and say hello, because I think we're going to be in the Tampa area. But Cheryl and I have never met face to face. And every once in a while when we say that, we go, wait, we haven't? Because we know Zoom is a beautiful platform that I think we're all getting super comfortable on. So leverage that, man. Get to know your people as if you've met them, because it matters. That's these depths of relationships truly, truly matter. And it really could change your life. And you could find that next partner or guidance that you're looking for in your career or life or business.
I'm always surprised when you say that. And because you remind me that we have never met in person, because it just seems like we have, we know each other that well, because we've hung out a lot on Zoom, haven't we?
Yeah, we've hung out a lot on Zoom, but that's okay. That's good, right? So I get a hug though when I come down, I think in February.
You bet.
So yeah, I can't wait.
I look forward to that, Connie.
Yeah, me too. And I hope you guys will join me weekly as we question, build, discover together that yes, change, yes, it can freak us out, but you've got this. And again, between my guests and I hope we share through our conversation some good stories, tips, ideas for you to implement immediately, as well as the beautiful resources that Cheryl has shared with us today. Again, the free workshop and Being Deliberate, her book, just paying the shipping and handling. So check it out. Again, all the links will be in the show notes for you. Easy peasy, click and go. So you don't have to hunt for things. Cheryl, again, honored, and thank you so much for being on. Thank you all for listening to Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.net. I truly am honored to have you on this journey of change, and I'm honored that you trust me with your time, again, to address change, whatever change is going on in your life and career. And I truly hope that you take one of the tips or one of the ideas that Cheryl and I talked about and implement it into your life and just watch the magic that happens. It's truly miraculous, and it's pretty cool to experience. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'll see you next week. Have a great one. Thanks.